Den blodigaste konflikten i historien har naturligtvis utspelat sig mellan svenskar och danskar. Med det sagt, dag Søren.
Hej Sonja.
Välkommen hit.
Tack ska du ha.
Tror du att någon kommer förstå oss om vi pratar på våra språk?
Jag förstår allt vad du säger, men min erfaring är att mina kollegor inte förstår allt jag säger när jag talar dansk.
Ja, som översättning då. Alla som blir förskräckta så sa Søren att vi kommer hålla oss på engelska så att alla kan förstå.
Det är nog en god idé. Det är nog en god idé.
För Sörens egna svenska kollegor. You're listening or maybe watching the video podcast Health and Wealth, and our guest today is Søren Bregenholt, CEO of Alligator Bioscience. Welcome, unofficial.
Thank you, Sonja. It's a pleasure being here. A true pleasure.
I'm glad. So how is it as a Dane to be operating on Swedish soil?
It's good. It has taken some adjustments in my leadership style and probably also in many of my new colleagues' way of working. But over the last 2.5 years, I think we found a recipe for success. I've been working in many cultures and driving projects in Japan and in the US and in different European countries. But I think one of the hurdles is that when you start working in Sweden, you believe
it's the same.
That it's the same, and I can assure you that it's definitely not.
Tell me about that. What did you have to adjust?
I think that there are a couple of basic differences in Danish and Swedish work culture. One is that the Danish is probably a little bit more assertive, direct, ready to take almost any conflict. Whereas what I have observed on this side of Øresund is that maybe a little bit more hesitant to go into conflicts, being a little bit more focused on the equilibrium of any team, and also always seeking a consensus.
Yeah, consensus is the Swedish middle name.
Yeah, and that is in many instances when you are operational, it's very, very good because it means that everybody is working towards a common goal, and you can rely on everybody on the team.
We like to think so. Sometimes it also means underlying conflicts and saying, of course, is everyone on board?
Exactly, and I think that has been one of the true learnings for me and my colleagues, and probably also one of the things where we are making a positive difference is that my leadership style is very direct. It's very inclusive, at least that what I try to tell myself or tend to tell myself, and it's also very transparent. So we try to get these conflicts up to the surface, ensure that everybody that has a viewpoint gets an opportunity to speak those viewpoints, and then sometimes stay in that what I call
uncomfortableness,
or constructive tension, where we don't have to rush to a conclusion or consensus, but we sometimes stay a little bit longer in that uncomfortable zone to see if there are better opportunities. And then sometimes I have to decide, or somebody else who has the mandate has to make a decision. It doesn't always have to be consensus, but we have to ensure that everybody is seen, heard, and understood, and then we can take a decision.
How do you help people staying in an uncomfortable zone? Because I think that's very interesting to actually speak it out. Like, no, we don't have to pretend that we are all on board when we are not.
It has taken some learning. I think one of the first thing I did when I joined Alligator was to make it very clear that the ideal organization, in my view, takes all decisions at the appropriate level in the organization.
What does that mean?
Yeah, it means that it's very easy when you have something that is hard to decide whether you want to do this, the other, or maybe sometimes not do anything, just to escalate it. And then escalate it. And then everything eventually ends at my table. And even though I'm good at making decisions, I'm not good at making all decisions or every decisions. So that we give people the comfort, the tools, and also the power to take the decisions at their level in the organization where it makes sense. Then sometimes it goes wrong, and then we talk about that, and then we do it better next time.
I think two things here. I think the last part of sort of then you mean that it's okay to be wrong. I think Danes are usually better at the Nollfelskultur, I don't know in Swedish, but that you're allowed to sort of try something out and then you can adjust it. Yeah. Whereas Swedes, we like to have a plan and we talk about it for a long time and you know, but then you stick to it. We don't like to be agile.
Yeah. That's not how I actually see it. I mean, and maybe that's a little bit about the industry that we are in. I mean, biotech, we are basically trying to second guess nature and then make solutions based on that to help people with serious disease. And in such an industry, you will probably be more wrong than you would be right. And that means if you go for a zero mistake culture, then you cannot move anywhere. So you have to, of course, in a rational way, in an evidence-based way, ask those questions where you actually don't know whether you will be wrong or right. Then operationally, when we talk about how we do things, there we have built an organization that is very straight on doing things the right way. So we need to sort of have that duality that the way we do things and our value system needs to be as correct as possible. That allows us the freedom to ask those questions at what some call the fuzzy front end, where we actually don't know whether we are right or wrong.
Mm. What is the most frustrating communicating with Swedes?
It is those small words that you think you understand. So reality is that 70% of my communication within Alligator is in Danish, Swedish mix of language, and sometimes we believe that we understand each other. There's a couple of funny examples of me having misunderstood words for quite a long time. And then sometimes I have maybe the feeling that my colleagues are a little bit too polite and pretend to understand what I'm saying, while not.
Yeah. How do you get a Swede to understand that you are direct but not angry?
That is. I think that's more a problem of personality and maybe not so much culture.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I think then it goes. It varies between culture.
Of course, and also people.
But I think the it's a good point. An equal good point is that how do you get whoever you talk to understand that this is about what we're discussing about. It's the subject, it's the matter. It's not about you as a person. Yeah. I think personally that is something that I'm still working on. I think everybody that have had a 25-year career like me have to have some sort of drive, have to have some sort of ambition, but also have an energy and that sometimes I wouldn't say that I don't get angry, but I get engaged, I'd rather say. And if you are have another personality, that can sometimes maybe be a little bit
intimidating.
Even intrusive.
Yeah.
And then it's my responsibility. There is always two ends of a communication, but in a hierarchy or a power structure, you have to be very cognizant that if you are a leader, then there is a limit to how direct or whatever you can be.
Yeah, because the pushback, of course, is going to be harder for someone below.
Of course.
But I was actually thinking about it culturally. I mean, of course, I agree it's something with personalities. But my experience is that Danes sometimes get frustrated with Swedes sort of we have a great expression for this. Tassar som katten runt het gröt.
Yeah.
Which is that we, there's something here in the center.
Yeah.
But it's very impolite to go for it.
Yeah.
So I will go through it a little bit until you sort of ask in. And I mean, of course, I'm exaggerating now.
Yeah.
But I can sometimes and this is fine when it's, comfortable subject.
Yeah.
But it's when it's a conflict, then I can perceive some days as, okay, you're really mad at me.
Yeah.
No, I was just clear with you.
Yeah. And I think we have the same expression in Danish, som katten om den varme grød. But I think that's a point, and I think that is an equally a cultural point, but also a leadership point, that you as a leader has to be able sometimes to point out, okay, guys, there is a white elephant in the room, and this is it. We better discuss that, because if we don't discuss that, then the rest, in a sense, become unessential. And of course, different people have different styles of doing that. Mine is assertive and direct. I have colleagues that are equally effective leaders as me, that do it in a completely different way. And I have a total respect for that. And I'm also trying to learn from colleagues and peers that do it differently from me.
What do you think you have learned the most from Swedes? Do we have any graces?
But I think that I have learned from a couple of my very good colleagues in Alligator and also other Swedish people that I've worked with, that having that a little bit more retracted position and not always having to make your point can also be beneficial in a lot of situations. And I'm learning.
I have to now remind you of drinking your coffee. This always happens.
I'll have a sip on this.
Yeah,
nice
table,
BioStock cup.
Yeah, exactly. But the table is sometimes too far away, and you get so engaged.
Yeah.
And then I just finish my coffee.
Yeah.
But what are the benefits of developing a life science products in Sweden? Or are there any?
but definitely, I think that, and that's another thing of developing a life science product in the southern part of Sweden, is that we have access to both the Swedish labor market and also the Danish labor market, and they come with two different qualities. I would say that I have been really impressed about the level of science here. And I can tell you, I'm not the only Danish CEO in Sweden that has that impression. So that's number one, that the science is very, very good. I think what we talked about earlier, the consensus culture and the fact that when you have agreed and you have a plan, then you execute. I think that's a very, very strong feature of Swedish life science and Swedish culture, in work culture in general. And then I think there is a strong loyalty, which I probably goes to the consensus culture as well. That I mean, you don't just stick around for 6-9 months, and then when you see something that is marginally better, you move to the next company. You really stay in the company and you engage.
Yeah.
What is then the strength of being in the southern part of Sweden is two things. One is that we have access to a lot of talented Danes. We talked about some of the cultural aspects, but the fact that Danish life science has been moving pretty solid the last 20 years with Novo and Lundbeck and Leo and other companies, means that you can say on the development side of things, there is a significant, well-educated and well-experienced talent pool in Copenhagen. And we are not farther away from Copenhagen, that we actually have a lot of those colleagues in Alligator as well. And then thirdly, there is a nice big international airport less than an hour from Alligator, meaning that we have access to a more European talent pool with colleagues working out of Germany, Spain, the UK. And I think that has given us a broader talent base, but it has also given us a broader and more diverse working culture in Alligator. That is not only Swedes and Danes, but we actually have, I think, 10 different nationalities in Alligator. And I can tell you, diversity is a crucial point of driving innovation. So that has been very, very important.
How do you think, as I want to say branch, but how do you think life science generally could do more exchanges like this to cooperate more country-wise?
Yeah, I spent 8 years as chairman of an organization called Silicon Valley Alliance that is working very much on ensuring exchange of skills and projects between Denmark and Sweden. And I think you need infrastructure first and foremost, and the bridge and the trains is part of it. But I also think we need some binational structures in terms of projects and co-funding. The thing is that if you get science funded in Sweden, then your ability to apply money stops at the border, and when you get money in Denmark from national agencies, it also stops there at the Danish border. So some mechanisms that actually can foster co-projects on where we can start spinning out better companies. You have a very, very good spin-out culture in Sweden. We have a little bit more of a structured way of venture capital in Denmark with the funds there. And I think we have, if we pool the two systems in Denmark and Sweden, with the strong science that we have, the strong hospitals, the strong universities, the Swedish spin-out culture, the Danish venture capital culture, and then add to that the Swedish culture of or method of IPOing your companies. And if you could do that a little bit later, then I actually think we would have a fantastic and even better, I would say, because it's really good, an even better biotech environment in this larger region. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting vision.
Yeah.
I agree. So now I think we should talk a little bit more about you and Alligator. Mm-hmm. What attracted you to Alligator?
A lot of things, actually. What was number 1, 2, and 3 was the projects, being able to work with our lead asset mitazalimab in a phase 2 study in a first line, a frontline setting where it's the first drug that patients with pancreatic cancer actually see. That was a big one for me, because being close to the patients is something that I was brought up in Novo Nordisk to think a lot about, and really sort of getting one step even closer in Alligator was clearly a thing. Number 2 was, and still is, the technologies. I think the technology base we have is really, really great. We are continuously working to improve it, recently involving or including artificial intelligence and other fancy technologies that I don't understand anything about, but we use these technologies to boost what we already have. So the assets and the technology, and then thirdly the people, the management team, the colleagues that I met, and definitely also the members of the board that I had a chance to speak with. So I sort of had a sense that this can only be right. Of course, there was also a lot of issues that we had to solve, and that's sort of what I like to do. So it all came together as a very very easy decision, actually.
Mm-hmm. Let's get everyone on board of Alligator. What do you do? Can you describe Alligator in a simple way?
Yeah. So Alligator is a biotech company. So basically, we are trying to develop pharmaceuticals. We actually tend to call it pharmaceuticals and not drugs, because that's the right term. So we're developing pharmaceuticals, and we're developing a class of pharmaceuticals that are called antibodies, and we're doing that to treat cancer. And antibodies are basically very small molecules that the body can make themselves. So if you have an infection, for instance, the body starts producing these antibodies as a weapon to neutralize and kill off, for instance, the infection.
It's our first line of defense.
It's one of our first line of defense, yeah. What we are then doing at Alligator is that we take that property and then we change it with various gene technologies to make it specific for a given protein on a cancer cell, and then make these molecules in a form so they can be given to, for instance, cancer patients.
So if you would picture this as a computer game, you would say that you can boost smartness and strength of the immune system when it comes to cancers.
And in a safe way.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we are then trying to, by these antibodies, do different things, really stimulate the immune system to kill the tumors in cancer patients. And that is, for me, extremely meaningful. From a technology point of view, it's very exciting. I'm really, really impressed about what my colleagues can do. I mean, they are a clever bunch. So that's fantastic. And what is probably even more fantastic and meaningful is that when you hear stories from patients in clinical trials that have been actually treated with the antibodies that we have developed at Alligator, not that others have, but that we have done, that the people I meet every day has actually thought out and worked tirelessly for many, many years to bring to the patients. And you see that it actually makes an effect, and that people with very tough cancers get a meaningful prolongation of their life. They are taking off chemotherapy. They are taking off their opioids, their pain treatment. I mean, then it makes you very emotional, I have to say.
Of course. You're focusing on pancreatic cancer.
Yes.
It's hard to pronounce it in English sometimes.
Yeah.
Why this form of cancer?
I could be clever and say that because it's hard. That's not. That's one of the reasons. It is hard. It's a disease that inflicts around 200,000 people in the U.S. and Europe or every year. And the thing is with pancreatic cancer, it's getting diagnosed very late. Meaning that most patients have metastases in the liver, in the lungs. Your former national head coach, I think, Svennis, was just diagnosed with pancreatic cancer.
Yeah, and a very fortunately also short life expectancy.
Yeah, and that is unfortunately the case, that for many of these patients there's not much to do. For those that are lucky, there are chemotherapy available in the clinic. So that is basically cell poison, and I can tell you these regimes that people are getting are pretty harsh. And if you are an average individual, you can expect to maybe live 11, 12 months after you have received the diagnosis. Yeah. And if you go out 5 years from time of diagnosis, it's only 1 or 2% of the people that are still alive. So that is harsh. So that's number one. Of course, having a heartfelt, ingrained vision to do something in a disease like that. And then the other thing, I mean, it's not enough to have a problem. You also need to have what you believe is a solution. And with our lead asset, so the asset that is most advanced, mitazalimab, the way that it works on the immune system makes it a very, what can we say, likely candidate to make a difference in pancreatic cancer. Not alone, but in combination with chemotherapy. And what we have seen with this study, a so-called phase 2 study where we've treated around in total 70 patients, is that we have seen that patients get the average patient gets an additional 3 months to live, and 40% of the patients are getting what we believe are substantial survival benefit, giving them at least 6 to 9 months additional tumor control and probably also extra life. And I think the point is, Sonja, you and I, we sit here, we are at our best ages, at the peak of our lives maybe, and there is, I mean, we have the entire life ahead of us, and for us maybe 6 months is nothing. But if you're diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and the doctor tells you that you may have 6 months, you may have 9 months to live, if we can provide another 6, 9, maybe a year to these patients, I'm pretty sure that they think that is a positive difference. And I'm pretty sure that their loved ones, family, children, thinks the same. Mm. So that's extremely meaningful.
I completely understand that. How personal does this get to you?
Very. When I speak about it, it gets, and when I think about it, it gets very personal. I think it has to. Otherwise, I could work somewhere else. It has to. Of course, in a busy workday, it's something that is out there as a vision, as a mission. But of course, there's a lot of practical stuff and meetings to be held and emails to be sent, and then of course it's pushed a little bit in the background every day. But when we set goals in Alligator, when we talk about why we're here, then that is the reason.
You touched upon it earlier that you actually want to be close to these patients.
Yeah.
You actually get to meet them sometimes. And how is that?
So that's a different thing. Let me say we meet patients, and we have tried and not tried. We have had patients at some of our internal meetings to talk about how it is to be a cancer patient. But having pancreatic cancer and having chemotherapy every second week is stressful, and I don't think it's appropriate. Also, not from an ethical point of view that me and my colleagues show up and do that. But we hear the stories. We talk to the doctors that are treating them, and that gives us a belief in that we are doing something important, something meaningful, and something right.
I can completely say what working with Alligator and these patients give to you. What do you think you bring to the company?
So I think one thing that has been important in Alligator over the last couple of years, that has been first of all a very clear direction. That we need to go. We have a mission, and that's where we need to direct our efforts. So that's number one. I think it has not been a surprise for anybody that the last 2-3 years have been difficult in the global financial markets. It's also been difficult for Alligator, meaning that we've had to focus. You always have to focus. I mean, if you want to be sure that you deliver on your mission, you also have to be able to focus to cut things that doesn't help you on your mission. We have been, as many other companies, forced to maybe focus a little bit more than we would have liked to, and that has been my responsibility to take some of those hard decisions where you can say all the arguments. And all the stars may be right to do something, but you could say that if we do this now, then we would not be able to do the right thing for mitazalimab in 9-12 months. So that's been on me. So I think I brought that. So I think I brought focus, a clear sense of direction, and then I think I brought a sense of optimism and a little bit of I wouldn't call it gung ho, but we can say that a little bit of. Damn it! I mean, let's get it done. Positive energy, and I think the company needed that, and I think that has really sort of transpired in the company now. After they realized that I was not completely crazy, and that probably took a couple of months, but I think we've been able to, as a company, to step our engagement up.
How would your colleagues describe you? if you weren't in the room?
As very Danish, probably. No, I think they would probably say that I'm pretty direct, that I'm on the point, hard on the issue, but also soft on the people. I think that's important, that we treat each other with a lot of respect and a lot of I wouldn't say necessarily tenderness, but a lot of care in our working life. Because if we don't have that care for each other, then it's hard to have those discussions where you actually in doubt: is he just on the point, or is he angry with me? You have to get that out of the conversation, and you can do that by being compassionate about your colleagues. Then I think they would say that they know what they get from me, that I'm relatively predictable, that they get a lot of operational freedom themselves, that we agree on the values and the way that we do things and the objective, and then it's up to them, who are the experts, to actually get things moving. And then I think that my humor is a little bit off once in a while. But,
how so off?
Yeah, but that's maybe another difference in between Danish and Swedish work culture, where you can say, how can I put it politely?
No, don't politely.
No,
give
yeah, but at least in a compassionate way. That I see that the Swedish work life is maybe sometimes a little bit more reserved.
That's a very kind way to put it.
Can we put it that way, where the companies that I've been in, the environments that I've been in, have probably been a little bit more, where you say people crack a joke once in a while, come with an off-the-cuff remark about something, and I like that as an individual, and I'm still doing it. I'm doing it more now than I did 2 years ago, I can assure you. It has to be sort of within respectful limits, but your work life has to be fun also.
Yeah. You haven't overstepped the mark, as the Royal Highness.
You shouldn't do that.
Say no, but I think actually this is something, again, going back to cultural differences. In my experience, humor plays a larger role in Danish sort of communication and society, more than than Swedish. It's also a way to show each other, you're close to me, while we do it usually being more polite. And that can actually be perceived as creating distance from a Danish point of view.
Yeah, and I would agree to that. And I think it's also a valve when you have those direct discussions where it's sometimes, or tensions, where it can sometimes maybe get a little bit sort of get to a peak. Then having humor as a way out, to sort of normalize your relationship is a good thing.
Yeah, doesn't come with any bad intentions.
No. And you can actually see it when you, for instance, when you work with other, for instance, Dutch, which have a little bit of a similar culture to Danes. There's also a good level of humor there to sort of take the tension out of the room.
Oh, you continental people. That's how we view.
Yeah.
Returning to Alligator, how does the cash flow look like?
Mostly out, as in other biotechs. We have the last 2 years been through a period of relatively high burn, and we've done that with a purpose. We want to take mitazalimab in as close as phase 3 as possible, as fast as possible, and we started out investing in first of all the phase 2 trial a couple of years ago, and what we have seen, and this is a good thing, that we have had more patients on treatment for a longer time than initially believed and budgeted, meaning that the drug works in these patients and the patient stays on trial longer. So that's a good thing, but that of course costs more money. Then, secondly, we decided early on that we wanted to invest in manufacturing. So when you go into phase 3 and commercial, you need to upgrade your manufacturing. Often you need to make some changes. You need to increase the scale, and you also need to go into a completely different kind of validation of your methods. So they're sort of safe enough and proven safe enough to treat not only maybe 50 or 60, but up to 1,000, hundred thousands of individuals. And that cost money. And we took a deliberate decision to front load some of that, so it wouldn't delay the phase 3 initiation of mitazalimab very much. Another strategy could have been that we started that now, and then we would be 2-3 years delayed. So therefore, we have kept a relatively high cash flow at Alligator, and that is a constant balance you face when you are leading a biotech company. How fast do you advance things? How fast do you advance the things that you believe in? My clear philosophy is if you believe in the asset, then you have to be bold and invest bold. And I think that's maybe a problem you see in if I would have one criticism of Swedish biotech, or one concern about Swedish biotech in general, is that there are too many companies that invest too little to bring things forward at the optimal speed. And then you can say, yeah, but you have to be cost cautious, and yes you do, but if you believe in something, then it doesn't get less expensive by being bold.
What do you think is your weak point in Alligator, or your main hurdle?
You said weak point.
Svag punkt på svenska.
Yeah, but it was more weak points with in plural. No, I think for every biotech company in this part of the world, it's the access to capital. How much capital can you get? How fast can you get it? And at what terms? And I think we can say that the Swedish financing environment around listings and rights issues and capital raises has been very, very good in times of growth. It has been less optimal the last couple of years, but money is still available. So access to cash is number one. I think number two is that we have a lot of very, very good people in Alligator, but we've only one of each, which is natural for a biotech company. So that is a weak point, but it can be mitigated, and that's something that we mitigate to ensure that those people that are single in their position are very elaborate in ensuring that we get input from outside sources, whether that's from their network, whether it's from consultants, whether it's from peers in other companies. It's important that you sort of, what can we say, gear your knowledge by accessing external collaborators in that sense. And then you can say, and I think that's maybe one thing where Alligator is not so weak, in that you have many companies that have either one clinical program or a single technology, and that's actually a strong point in Alligator, that we have a number of clinical assets, mitazalimab in phase 2, we have phase 1 assets, we have preclinical assets, and we have several technologies that allow us to take the right decisions with the right programs at the right time, and giving us what we call optionality if we fail somewhere, because there will be failures in this industry, probably more failures than successes. But that doesn't mean that the company is over and out with. It means that then we do something else that has an equally high probability of success, or even higher. And we have, and the last thing, we have a number of collaborations, all the way from very successful early collaborations to also successful late stage collaborations, which sort of just adds to that plurality of opportunities in Alligator.
That's nicely done, Søren. You actually managed to start off with your weaknesses and then somehow turn them to your strength points. Of course, you have to do that, I guess. But I think for some people, how do you do if you're a person who's looking to invest and make a good choice between all the companies in the biotech and in the life science business?
Yeah.
How do you make a good choice?
I think that's an important question. I can tell you how I invest personally.
Please do.
I think I have one very clear no-go. I don't invest in things that I don't understand. So I don't invest in bitcoins and stuff like that, for instance, because I don't understand it. So if you are and then on the other hand, you have to believe in something where you believe that the business and the potential is good. Don't think about what happens in 3 or 6 months, but is there a long-term opportunity for a company to grow and make money? And you can say if you're investing in established pharma, that's of course based on the pipeline and their top line and their bottom line and stuff like that. That should be easy. If you invest in a life science company like Alligator, you really have to look at, do you believe that the programs that are there can make a difference? Do the company have a history of actually being able to deliver what they promised? If they say that phase 1 data or phase 2 data will be available in June or any other month, are they actually delivering on that? Do they have a high level of information? And can you believe, do you trust in what the CEO or other company representatives actually tell you? And is there a story, a history of going back and seeing that, okay, they said that's actually smart. And then I think you also need to, that's at least for me important, that you need to feel when you invest in companies like Alligator, that you feel sort of aligned with the mission. I talked very much about the pancreatic cancer, the other cancers that we're treating. And if you feel sort of an alignment with that mission, and you believe that the management team and the products and the technologies look like something that is holds promises, then I would invest. But I would do my research first. I would listen to company presentations. I would read the material, and then I'll talk to my good friends and family to see whether they have any information. But I wouldn't shy away from investing in biotech, but I would try to understand the risk profile of the companies that I would invest in.
This sounds like a good ending point for this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. Did you enjoy your time? How hard was this?
This was a very nice conversation, Sonja, and the coffee was really, really good.
You have to say that. Never insult a Swede by her coffee. Thank you so much for coming.
You.
Och tack du som tittade eller lyssnade. Hoppas att vi har gett dig en fördjupad bild både av svensk-dansk kultur, krock och samarbeten inom life science och om Alligator Bioscience.